It's almost that time. Training camp is basically here, and we are going to talk about all the things to keep an eye out for. There's so many things that are going to be happening at 49ers training camp. We're going to prime you and let you know what you need to be watching for coming up in a week from now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going down, sourdough squad? First of all, we had a massive milestone reached today. The channel hit 70,000 subscribers. That means we have 70,000 SDS strong, 70,000 bread gang, 70,000 faithful 49ers. Man, shout out to all you guys. Shout out to everyone hopping into the live. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to all the SDS, the mod squad. Shout out the gang. 70,000 subs on the channel. Absolutely wild. We had all kinds of crazy milestones. Hit 150,000 followers on Instagram. We're like a couple followers away from 60,000 on Facebook. We're man, shout out to you guys. That's all I could say. Shout out to everyone vibing. Appreciate all of you guys. I mean, 70K. That's wild. Absolutely wild. We'll see. We'll see when 100K comes around. I don't know. Can we hit 100K this year? That's a tough task. That is a tough task to hit 100K, but my goodness, I'm not going to put anything past the SDS. It can all happen. Shout out the gang, of course, as always. Got to start by shouting out the SDS. Good to see the gang hopping in. Training camp, man, where training camp's basically here. It's basically here. Like it's crazy. It's wild. We went from the longest offseason in history to, oh my goodness, we've got training camp. We've got training camp. Let's go. We're out here trying to cook. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Shout out Hefe. 70K SDS gang. You know the vibes. We out here. Appreciate all you guys, all the support, everyone chiming in, tapping in. Y'all the best. But I'm excited. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about, of course, outside of the squad hitting 70K on the channel, which is just crazy. Again, absolutely crazy. But let's listen in. If you guys haven't heard already, Steve Young. I've talked about Steve Young on this channel quite a bit. Like, if there's anyone that you want to list, like, there's so many different people talking about the San Francisco 49ers quarterback position, whether it's content creators, national media, whatever, everyone in between. Everyone's talking about the 49ers quarterback position. But I've talked about this many times. There's really only one person you need to listen to, really, when it comes down to it. If you've just stayed locked in and tapped in with Steve Young throughout the entire process, Steve has hit it right on every single step. This is dating back to Jimmy Garoppolo, back when it was Jimmy and Trey, then when it was Trey, then when it was Brock, or back to Jimmy, then Brock. Like, if you have just paid attention to what Steve Young has been saying, he does weekly spots on KNBR during the season. Obviously, he had his own platform on ESPN. But if you just listen to Steve for over the years, he has been literally on top of it every step of the way. I'm not sure he's been wrong on anything. And he went on to 49ers Talk podcast with Matt Mayoko. And of course, Steve Young always provides fire sound bites, but are we surprised that Steve Young dropped more fire sound bites? And Steve wants to see Brock Purdy cook. And when we say Brock Purdy cook, let's get more in depth of what Steve Young is talking about. Again, Steve Young joined 49ers Talk podcast, Matt Mayoko. Listen to what good old Steve Young had to say right here.
We have this incredible, unique human being named Brock Purdy.
Incredible.
And I'm just not going to limit him. I'm not going to say, oh, he's not bigger, he's not as strong, he's not as fast. I'm just not going to limit him. I think he's just an incredibly unique human made for quarterbacking, and I'm just let him cook. I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to prejudge anything that he can or can't do. I think it's all possible with Brock. So if Brock is ready game one, it's not going to be 100%. Anyone who says he can rip a pass 6 months later, I don't think it belies reality. It doesn't mean he can't play 90%. So we'll see how that goes. But if he's ready, I'm sure they'll play him.
Okay, so what just jumped out at you when you watched him play at the end of last season?
There's a processing. I call it the Force. It's like a Star Wars analogy, and it's something you can't describe. It's just someone has the Force. And I think quarterbacking is so much that way. When I see somebody who has the Force, I don't know how to tell you all the intricacies of what makes that, but you can just tell. And so Brock had it so thick. It was like Luke Skywalker, like right away, he was just, and so he wasn't the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the strongest arm, but he has the Force. And maybe he's strong as anybody who's playing. So and then you talk about on top of the culture and the innovative offense and the play calling and the talent, it all kind of comes together. So that's why I don't want to limit what Brock could be, because it's easy to say the last person in the draft at his size, arm strength, and everything else. There's limitations.
Right.
I think that'd be with talking about Brock Purdy. I don't think you should speak that way, because I think he's the kind of guy that's going to make you look like a dummy.
My guy, Steve Young, out here spitting hot fire, hot gas. I mean, literally this, and I'm not just saying this because this is what we have been saying on this channel for literally the entire summer, in regards to all the debates, all the conversations, everyone going back and forth about what Brock Purdy is. Literally, couldn't me, Steve Young, handshake emoji. I mean, again, you've been rocking. You're one of the 70K SDS gang. That's what we've been talking about. All these conversations about, does he have the arm strength? Does he have the elite measurables? Blah, 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 blah. And what do we talk about all the time? Elite measurables are absolutely phenomenal, but it's not the end all be all when it comes to being a quality quarterback in the NFL. And this is from a Hall of Famer who had elite measurables. Like when you talk about his ability to run, when you're talking about Steve Young, I mean, one of the first true mobile quarterbacks in the NFL, one of the pioneers of being a mobile dual threat quarterback in Steve Young. The guy had a cannon for an arm. He could throw the ball wherever he wanted to put it. He could run away from pressure. He could dip out and score a touchdown from 50 yards out. Like, you're talking, this guy is speaking from a perspective of being an elite traits type guy. But he is also saying you don't need to have these elite measurables. When we're saying measurables, we're talking like tangible arm strength, size, speed. Now, does it help? Of course. Look at Josh Allen. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Yes. Look at Justin Herbert's arm strength. Yes. Does that help you have success in the league? Does it help propel you further? Of course. Of course. But at the end of it all, the thing that really matters most when it comes to playing quarterback is the intangible. That's why you can't evaluate quarterbacks strictly on measurable. I learned this a long time ago. You can't just lock into measurables. You have to try to understand, and you have to be able to scout the person as best you can at the quarterback position, because they have to be the leader of the entire team. They have to be the toughest player on the entire team. They have to be the smartest player on the entire team. You have to be elite from an intangible standpoint. And how do you measure intangible? It's really hard to do that. That's why when it comes to quarterback, it's hit or miss, because we can all see who's got a cannon of an arm. We can all see who's got good feet and good posture and can throw the ball from multiple arm angles and arm slots. But what you can't really measure is how this guy handles pressure, whether it's pressure from defenders getting free, whether it's the pressure of the moment, you're down 2 touchdowns with a quarter left, and you got to put the team on your back, and you got to drive down the field to score touchdowns. There's so many different intangible aspects to this. And what I love about Steve is he understands that. And he's talked about it with Jimmy, Brock, and Trey. He's got a different opinion for all three, and he's been on top of it. He's been on point with the whole quarterback thing. And that is going to be one of the number one things that we're going to be watching in training camp. When we show up to Santa Clara, the number one thing is Brock Purdy throwing a football. How does he look? Because what Steve Young also said is he isn't expecting Brock Purdy to be 100% right away, and rightfully so. The hope is he's 100% ready to go by week 1, but we also understand he is coming back from a UCL surgery. It's a pretty severe surgery. We only have one other reference point, and that other player happens to be a former 49ers quarterback in Nick Mullins. So there's a very limited sample size of how guys have come back from this. So there's still a bit of a TBD from the physical side of it. But again, what Steve Young talks about regarding Brock Purdy and the intangible side of things is that he said that he has the force, and because basically replace the force with the it factor, right? You hear that all the time. That player has it. What is it? I don't know. It's unquantifiable. How do you measure it? How do you identify it? It's just something that it's a feeling, it's a vibe. Brock Purdy clearly has the it factor and understands how to play the quarterback position at an extremely high level, regardless of any perceived physical limitations that he may have. That's why the conversations, I think, throughout the offseason, talking about Brock Purdy's size, arm strength, et cetera, was, again, I can understand, yes, Brock doesn't have elite measurable traits, but that's not the end all be all when it comes to playing quarterback position. And I think that's why it became such a polarizing topic this offseason, because two things can be true. Brock Purdy can absolutely not have a Josh Allen type arm or build, but he can also have a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes level of impact in regards to leading his team and putting his team in a position to win football games. And he can improve. So Brock Purdy has the things that I don't think, you have to teach them at one point, but from this point on, it's on Brock. Brock's leaderships, Brock's cool as a cucumber type mentality. That's on him. That's him. You can't inject that into someone. You either have it or you don't. Brock clearly has it. Steve Young clearly sees it. And those are the things that make great quarterbacks, is the intangible aspect. Yes, measurables matter. Having a cannon of an arm matters, but it's not the end all be all when we're discussing quarterbacks. So the number one thing heading into training camp and what we're going to be watching for is Brock Purdy. How is he throwing? What does it look like? How does it all come together? And I'm really, really looking forward to it all. I really, really think that Brock, he'll be okay. I mean, Caleb's asking right now, hashtag SDS. So is Purdy health? Is Purdy starting? He's starting as long as he's cleared. If he's 100% cleared when week 1 rolls around, yeah, Brock Purdy's going to start. I think, again, Brock Purdy has earned the job. He's earned it from multiple levels, from his play, from his leadership, from all the things that we don't see on the field. Brock Purdy has earned it. So I expect Brock Purdy to be the starter. Now, anything can happen. Anything can happen. So we're not going to pigeonhole ourselves into that. But by taking the messaging from the team, all the you take in everything that has been coming out, hearing Kyle Shanahan, hearing John Lynch, Jed York, hearing them all talk about it, it sounds like Brock is their guy. And but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how he looks. We'll see what the arm's looking like. We'll see how he's rebounded from the rehab process. We'll see. We still are TBD. But Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, those are the other things that we're going to be watching in training camp. Obviously, quarterbacks are going to be number one. Everyone is going to want to know the status of Brock Purdy. How's Trey looking? How's Sam looking? The other thing that people also are going to be looking for is the status of the depth chart. Who is where? Who's starting with the ones? Who's with the twos? Who's with the threes? Who's rotating? What does the rotation look like? I'm always watching rotation. I'm always watching who's rotating in and out. I'm always watching who's running with the ones, who's running with the twos. Perfect example goes back to Trey Lance's rookie year. Trey never ran with the ones. And what I would quantify running with the first team offense is you're running behind the first team offensive line. Trey never ran. I think there was maybe like 5 total plays over the entirety of training camp where Trey Lance lined up behind the first string offensive line. That's how you now he threw to Ayuk, he threw to Debo, he threw to Kittle in team drills, but he never lined up behind the team's starting offensive line. So when we're watching quarterback rotation, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for who's starting or who's playing behind the starting offensive line, because that's how you indicate who is running with the ones. So that's what we're going to be watching for. Who's running with the ones? Who's running with the twos? Who's running with the threes? What does the rotation look like? How does that rotation evolve throughout training camp? That's just how we start to try to track it. We try to connect the dots of what's going on. So obviously, quarterback number one on everyone's list. I think we know that. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see the new and improved Trey Lance throwing mechanics. I'm excited to see if we see a different version of Sam Darnold, but I'm excited to see this competition and each stage where everyone's at. Just get a final baseline. I'm tired of talking about it. Tired of overanalyzing slow motion clips against air. We're going to see it all in pads, and that is the true measure of where these guys are currently at. Now, they're not going to be in padded practice throughout all of training camp. The padded practices are what matter the most. They're always going to matter the most. When they have pads on, it's the biggest thing that replicates real reps. So I would imagine they're probably going to come out without pads, probably kind of warm up into it. So we'll see what it ultimately looks like, but we'll see. I do not have tickets for all the days. So if you've got tickets for a couple of the days, hit my DM because your boy so far is only slated to be there for 4 days. Um, Getting tickets this year was an absolute nightmare. So I'm going to be on the hunt for tickets, whether I got to go through resale and get absolutely gouged for them because, I want to be there. And, I'm down for the cause. I'm down for the content, even if it means I got to come out of pocket, which I come out of pocket on everything. So that's nothing new. But coming out of pocket to go to these training camp practices, I'm going to do it. But yeah, I only got tickets for I need so far there are 5 days that I don't have tickets for, which is a lot of days. But anyways, we'll figure it out. If you got tickets that maybe I can I can buy, normally we do training camp ticket giveaways. Normally that's what we do. But that was absolutely impossible this year. Normally I like to do training camp ticket giveaways to followers, but that just was absolutely impossible this year. So we'll see. We'll see though. But I'm gonna try to get there to every single one of them, no matter what it takes. Because hey, this is how we work. So whatever I got to do, I'm gonna figure it out. But other things that we're also gonna be watching for: right tackle. What is Colton McKivitz looking like? How's Colton McKivitz holding up? Colton McKivitz versus Nick Bosa. Well, first of all, before we even get into Colton McKivitz, what are we going to be watching for? One is Nick Bosa getting his contract extension. Right now, the tentative deadline for Nick Bosa to get paid currently is when? Wednesday. So I don't expect Nick Bosa to play at all. Practice, nothing until that contract extension happens. So we are kind of in the final stages. I don't anticipate anything crazy, like any issues are going to come out of it. I do know the 49ers, it's pretty common that they push, these contract extensions all the way to the very end. It's pretty normal. So I expect Nick to get paid, but the hope is he gets paid on that, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday. They players are going to be attending or reporting on Tuesday. So the hope is when Wednesday, the first training camp practice, we got Bosa paid. But like I said, I don't anticipate Bosa to step on that field until the bag has been secured. Literally, no incentive for Bosa to practice until that direct deposit hits the account. So I expect Bosa to get quarterback money. I'm thinking in the range of about 33.5 to 35. I would say that's the sweet spot for average per year for Nick Bosa. And he's deserving of it. Reigning defensive player of the year, absolutely deserves that type of payday. And the 49ers probably will give it to him. I've never seen the 49ers so openly adamant that they're going to sign a player years ahead of them actually being in a contract negotiation. Anytime you ask John Lynch about Nick Bosa, he just, he's going to be a Niner for a long time. Every single time for like the last 2-3 years. He's just, Bosa's going to be a Niner for a long time. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And hopefully that when is in the next week. So that's one of the things that we're going to be watching for. When will Nick Bosa get paid? Hopefully by next Wednesday, when we actually have players on the field for the 49ers. So that's the hope. Again, other things that we're going to be watching in training camp. We're watching right tackle. Colton McKivitz. We know he is going to replace Mike McGlinchey, so we want to watch that. How does McKivitz hold up? I mean, McKivitz, what you need to remember, because McGlinchey was coming back from injury last year, and Trent Williams is a veteran and gets a ton of vet missed I'd say like half of training camp last year with the ones. So McKivitz running with the ones, nothing new there. He runs with the ones all the time. So going up against Bosa, going up against the starters, he does it quite a bit. So this isn't going to be new territory for McKivitz. That's one of the things with McKivitz. It's like I know a lot of fans don't know what to expect, but just know he has a high level of experience for a guy who has limited starts. When he has started, he's done a pretty decent job for the most part. And I do think McKivitz will be able to come in and improve and get better. He'll be able to hold it down. I mean, we saw what the 49ers were able to do with Tom Compton at right tackle. Now, Tom Compton obviously got put on an island when it mattered most, and that kind of reared its head in an ugly way, but still doesn't change the fact that Colton McKivitz can also hold it down and be a guy that the 49ers can rely on. So we're going to be watching Colton McKivitz. Offensive line in general, big three interior. Did you guys see Banks? I'm hyped on Banks, man. My goodness, he looks phenomenal. Aaron Banks looks like he's slimmed down. He looks lean. He looks lean. He looks mean. He looks ready for an all-pro season. Aaron freaking Banks, ladies and gentlemen. Like, to me, I know probably a lot of you guys are like, that's a big guy. But to me, this is leaned out Aaron Banks. Like, Aaron Banks has always been a big guy. When the 49ers drafted him, I was surprised they drafted him because he was such a big guy to kind of fit into the prototypical Shanahan outside zone scheme. You need to be quick footed. You got to be fast, got to be able to get to second level. You got to be able to move in a zone scheme. Power schemes are different. Power screen like Lakin was, he could fit both, but he is bigger. He could execute power, gap scheme, those types of power concepts pretty well. Where you just got to dig guys out. You got to move them from point A to point B. Zone concepts are much more fluid. Zone is much more predicated on getting to a track and a spot, less about blocking just a guy. So zone, you're working your area. That's why it's called zone, outside zone, inside zone, mid zone, whatever you want to call it. It's about getting on your track. And if some guy comes into your area, you take him. Whether that guy vacates, you don't leave your track. You just stay on your track. Everyone has a track, and you got to be able to move, and you got to be able to get to second level. Aaron Banks looks lean. He looks happy, but he also looks mean. Look at that guy, bro. I saw these pictures that Banks posted, and I'm like, oh, he looks different. Like, he looks lean. Like I said, he's always been a big guy. He will never not be a big guy. But to me, how I view Banks, he looks lean. This looks like a guy who's ready to go. I had the opportunity to reach out to his trainer, who worked with him just this past Saturday. And because I saw these photos, I was like, dude, Banks looks lean. He's like, he is in crazy shape. That's what he said. He's in crazy shape. Basically said this dude's gas tank right now is insane. Basically, what his trainer said is Aaron Banks right now is in absolutely phenomenal shape. So, I mean, Aaron Banks has the opportunity to be an all-pro. I really do believe it, because I think he is a quality pass protector. If he can take these steps, when I see him leaning out, I'm like, okay, he's getting more mobile. He's getting to a spot where he can probably move a little bit better. He's already moved really, really well for his size. But the fact that he's getting leaner and cutting and really focusing on kind of his conditioning and his physical kind of build, that tells me that Banks is about to have a crazy year. I've always been, you guys know, I'm already high on Banks, but I think Banks is about like this to me shows me he's been putting in the work. He's not showing up to training camp overweight. He's showing up to training camp in shape, locked in, ready to go. Aaron Banks has an opportunity to turn in a all pro type caliber season. Again, I don't know who determines all pro. I just know that him, Trent Williams playing next to each other, have an opportunity to do massive work. So the O line's going to be good. We're going to be watching tight end. Who's it going to be? I'm still holding down. It's going to be 4 tight ends on the roster. I still think it's going to be Kittle, Latu, Willis, and Warner. I still think the 49ers have to rely on Warner as a blocker, especially in the scheme. I still think they're not going to want to let Willis go. I think Latu's a lock. Kittle, Latu are locks. That's how I'm looking at it. And I think it's going to come down to they don't want to let Willis go and hit the wire because he can get picked up by anyone. But at that same token, they also need someone that they can rely on and trust as a blocker. And that's where Warner comes in. But we'll see. So tight end, we're going to be watching tight end. We're going to be watching running back. We're going to be watching, like, I know you guys have seen those recent videos of Ty Davis Price. Ty Davis Price looks good. I mean, and I've talked about it before. Ty has shown me little things on tape towards the end of the year when he got some opportunities. But I do think Ty is going to come in ready to go and ready to push off Laybourne. He's going to try at least. I know a lot of people are out on Ty Davis Price, or at least have him on the radar of being a 53-man roster casualty. But I'm a big believer in kind of being patient when it comes to development. I mean, sometimes guys show you right away that they aren't going to be it. They aren't going to be a guy in the NFL. Like, it's just sometimes you see that. With Ty, I still think there's something there. Now, is it where it needs to be? No. Jordan Mason played better than Ty Davis Price. Jordan Mason right now is better than Ty Davis Price. And it's not much of a conversation. But I still think Ty has something there. And I'm not ready to just count him out exactly yet. And who knows? Maybe he loses his job to an undrafted free agent. Maybe that happens. But that's something that we're going to be watching in training camp for sure. I think Ty could surprise. I think he could surprise because I think, a lot of people counted him out. Another surprise, Danny Gray. I talk about it all offseason. I'm not ready to count out Danny Gray either. I know he's firmly on the radar for some of being another cut casualty as well. I think Danny Gray takes a step forward. I think he has a special teams role that's going to help solidify his spot. I think Danny Gray can challenge Ray. I think that's what we'll see this year. Again, I saw glimpses of what Danny Gray could do, but we got to see it more consistently. We got to see it pop more often. Danny Gray, rightfully so, is on the cut radar for a lot of people. And I can't argue against it. I know why, because he got one catch last year, right? So when a third rounder gets one catch, seldom used, a lot of people are going to question what he is going to be and if he can be a guy in the NFL. And the 49ers have a lot of talent at wide receiver. So there's plenty of competition. Danny Gray is not walking into a role. He's got to earn his role. But I think Danny Gray will earn it. And I think Danny Gray will have an opportunity to actually challenge Ray a little bit for some snaps. We'll see. Ultimately, I could be wrong on that. But again, I know the talent that Danny possesses, and I know we haven't seen it yet. I know we've seen it in glimpses, and I know we haven't seen the full thing. So until until I see more from Danny, I'm not ready to give up on him yet, but I can understand why some think he could get pushed off the roster this year. We'll find out. Guys are going to be watching rookies like Ronnie Bell, 7th-round draft pick out of Michigan, did pretty well in OTAs. So that's a guy to watch out for. Chris Conley is a guy to watch out for. Isaiah Winstead is a guy to watch out for. Daz Newsome. There's a bunch. There's a bunch of guys to be on the lookout for. So we will definitely see, but plenty to watch on the offensive side. And of course, defensive side, we're going to be watching a lot as well. Defensive line is going to be a lot of fun. Offensive line versus defensive line, yes. Thank you. Tate Martin's my guy. He's my super sleeper for somehow squeezing a roster spot. But again, it comes down to how many tight ends are they going to carry? How many wide receivers are they going to carry? It's going to be interesting. But still, Tate Martin's a dog. Like he's deserving of being on an NFL roster. And that's a good problem for the 49ers to currently have. So, offensively, it's going to be interesting to see who stands out of those groups. But, I'm looking forward to what we get from training camp. Defensively, watching the defensive line is going to be something that's going to be really fun to watch. Javon Hargrave, what does Kinlaw look like? Drake Jackson, Cleveland Ferrell, Austin Bryant, dude looks like a wide receiver out here in some of his offseason training. I'm excited to see who stands out on that defensive line. I think there's multiple guys that can absolutely stand up and step up. I think Eric Armstead plays more edge this year. I think we see him shifted a lot more across that defensive line, more as a chess piece than we have recently. So really excited about what he's going to bring to the table. With Eric Armstead, I'm not sure I've ever been more hyped about Eric Armstead heading into a season than this year, because I think with Javon coming to the squad, it changes a ton for the 49ers. So I'm absolutely looking forward to what this defensive line offers, ultimately looks like this next season. And of course, linebacker. We already know Fred Warner, LB1 in the NFL. It's not even up for debate. Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football. You throw Dre Greenlaw into the mix, it's the best linebacking duo in football. Dre Greenlaw has an opportunity to take a step forward next year. On top of Dre Greenlaw's, who's going to step up behind that? I think Oren Burks is for sure going to get the first shot at it. But I think the guy who has the biggest opportunity to challenge Oren Burks and to challenge for a roster spot and challenge for reps is going to be Marcelino McCrary-Ball. Dude looks like he he was built in a lab. Dude is yoked. He looks bigger than Dre Greenlaw. He looks just as powerful as Dre Greenlaw. He moves just like Dre Greenlaw. Like he's a Dre Greenlaw 2.0. Marcelino McCrary-Ball has an opportunity to be the biggest surprise of training camp, in my opinion. One of the guys going from an undrafted free agent last year to a guy who could push for serious playing time, like a guy who didn't make the roster last year to a guy who could potentially force the 49ers hand at serious reps. So Marcelino's a guy that I'm definitely going to be watching. Of course, you got Flan, you got Curtis Robinson, you got the two rookies, D. Winters and Jalen Graham. Want to see what those two guys have to provide. But the guy that I've got circled right now, I know what Oren Burks is. I think Oren Burks can absolutely be the third linebacker and provide a lot of good value and a lot of good just play really well. He's a quality player. But Marcelino kind of is that question mark. Like, what could he really be? I think Marcelino could be a guy that we're definitely talking about this throughout all of training camp. Obviously, safeties coming up. we know who we're going to be watching at safety. We're going to be watching Jair Brown, the first pick in this draft class for the 49ers, traded up into the third round, traded closer up into the third round to take Jair Brown. Jair Brown has an opportunity to play a lot of snaps this year. He, outside of Jake Moody, who will be the starting kicker for the San Francisco 49ers, another guy that we're going to be watching to see how he plays. We're going to be watching Jair Brown. We're going to be watching Tig to see what he's looking like in training camp, because he could be the biggest impact rookie that the 49ers currently have. So that is going to be something that we're going to be paying close attention to. Really trying to get a good sense of what Jair Brown is. Really looking forward to seeing him. And if we look at DBs, of course, we have Charvarius Ward, we've got Deommodore Lenoir, but I'm really looking forward to Isaiah Oliver, Samuel Womack, and of course, there's some battles that are going to be happening. How does Ambry Thomas look? Those are going to play. The depth is going to be another big sticking point for the 49ers at defensive back, to see how these guys all operate. So there's so many things to watch for in this training camp. This team is absolutely stacked. They got quality talent up and down the roster. So I'm absolutely excited for what these guys are going to be looking like. I think this is going to be one of the most entertaining training camps that we've seen in quite some time. Obviously, for the quarterback, for everything else, man. I really think there are multiple things that are just going to stand out at training camp that are going to completely grab our attention, and just it's going to be fun, man. I can't wait. I can't believe we're less than a week away from training camp. We've got position battles. We got, we got everything. Anything you can ask for. You got Bosa versus Trent. You've got Ward versus Ayuk. Debo. What is Debo looking like? Debo looks like he's possessed, which is a good thing. I think Debo's going crazy. I think Ayuk's going crazy. What's the quarterback looking like? I mean, we got depth at offensive line, depth at defensive line, depth at linebacker. Probably the weakest spot for depth is probably cornerback, but we'll see. We'll see. I think the 49ers are in a good spot. Again, so much focus has been dedicated this offseason to the quarterbacks, and rightfully so. I understand it. But when you look at the entire roster, you look the way it's compiled. I've talked about this many times. I'm normally kind of temper expectations when it comes to this team, but this year I have very high expectations. I'm really, I'm really, I've typically been really hesitant to deem the 49ers a Super Bowl or bust team, just because there's so many variables. We know this team has dealt with many injuries throughout the year. It's really hard sometimes. You can project, of course, but to definitively project, I've always kind of been tempered. But even with the quarterback situation playing out as it has, I believe this is a Super Bowl bust roster, Super Bowl or bust roster. I think this team has the potential to go all the way. You've heard people call us overrated. You've heard people say, oh, the 49ers are the biggest, most overrated contenders heading into a season in a long time. That's fine. Call us overrated. I think the San Francisco 49ers should be a Super Bowl team, should be competing for a championship. If we're not in the NFC championship game, I will be disappointed. I will feel like this team didn't meet its potential. And I don't care who the quarterback is. Again, a potato could be the quarterback and lead this roster to an NFC championship game, to the Super Bowl. That's truly how I feel. You go up and down the roster. You know how they're coached. Steve Wilkes coming in, Chris Kosarek still here. These guys are these Greasy heading into year 2, Forster heading into year 2 as run game coordinator. These guys are going to get better. They're going to improve as a group. And as long as we can find what we're looking for and what we need at quarterback, there's no reason why this team, this roster shouldn't strike fear into any opponent they face. This team should win the West. It's going, I'll give them credit, man. It's going to be a tough battle with Seattle. I think Seattle got better, and Seattle played us pretty well last year, and I think they will improve, and they're going to give us a run for their money, but I still think the 49ers take care of business, and they win the West. I think Seattle is improved, but I don't think they're going to be really doing much more than what we saw last year. Again, they'll have an opportunity. They will challenge the 49ers. I believe that to be true. But I also believe 49ers take care of business in the West, in the playoffs. Try to get that number 1 seed. Get that little bye. Get a little rest in the playoffs would be huge. Home field advantage. We saw again how important home field advantage is. That to me is one of the number 1 things for this team next year, to ensure that they have home field advantage in the playoffs, which means win as much games as possible, because we know Levi Stadium is a hard place to play at. Levi Stadium is a real home field advantage. Those fans in that stadium, when the playoffs come around, bro, you can't talk bad about Levi Stadium anymore. Before, you used to be able to take shots. Before, you used to be able to take shots at the fan base for not showing up. You could have back when we were not good, but not anymore. The 49ers are putting out a product that the fans are hyped about, that they feel like they can rally behind. And if you try to come to Levi Stadium, good luck. Good luck, because you're not just playing the 49ers, you're playing the entire city of Santa Clara, because we get loud. The 49ers, when fans show up to that stadium, they fill it out. And they get loud and they yell. But again, it's also, too, 49ers have to give them something to yell about. I wouldn't say 49er fans at Levi's are just, screaming the entire time. But, man, when you give them something to scream about or yell about or cheer about, it changes everything. Perfect example, last year's wild card game against the Seattle Seahawks. When Deebo Samuel got his leg pulled, oh boy, it went from nervous energy to we're going to kick your ass energy in the entire stadium. I'll be honest, man, when we were in the third quarter against Seattle, I've played Seattle enough times to know, like, man, if it's close, that's not a place you want to be. Against Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. And you could feel the energy. It wasn't just with me. It was the whole stadium was just kind of nervous. When they pulled Deebo's leg, everything changed. The entire energy went from we're kind of nervous to we're going to kick their ass. Like, it was crazy. I've never experienced anything like it before, where again, we had nervous energy. We had a rookie quarterback. We didn't know what the heck to expect, and the entire energy shifted. And Levi Stadium was ready to kick the Seattle Seahawks ass. It was a beautiful thing. It really was. Watching 65,000 people completely shift their energy to, oh, we're gonna destroy these guys, to going from nervous to, oh, nah, It's on. I think literally everyone wanted to fight the Seattle. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing. The team soaked up that energy. The entire stadium had that energy. You do not want to play an angry Levi's Stadium in the playoffs. Believe me, I've witnessed it. I saw it. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a hard thing to beat. Ask the Seattle Seahawks. They know. Don't come on to the 49ers turf. Do something silly and get the entire stadium against you, because boy, I've never seen an energy shift like that before in a football game live, ever. That palpable. It was wild. So super excited for this year. Super excited for training camp, man. This team, high expectations. Super Bowl or bust for me. I think that's got to be the rallying cry, and I don't think that's something that we should hide from. I don't think it's something that we should be like, well, let's take it week by week. Of course, players are going to say that when they're talking to media, and rightfully so. But for us and how we're viewing this team and how it's put together, man, the Super Bowl better be the expectation, because that's how good of a team we have. It's how good of a roster we have. It's good how good of a coaching staff we have. Everyone right now heading into this chapter, the George Kittles, the Trent Williams, the Fred Warners. You think about the OGs, right? You think about the guys that have been here for a while, the Christian McCaffreys, the Debo Samuels, Brandon Ayuk now. The Eric Armsteads, Nick Bosa. You think about these guys who have now, one, solidified themselves in this league, and where they're currently at in their careers. This is the year. There's no messing around. There's one goal and one goal only, and the goal is to win the Super Bowl. So how does this team set itself up for that? How does this team put themselves in a position for that? Home field advantage in the playoffs. That's where we're starting. And then if this team has home field advantage moving forward, that should set them up for a lot of success down the road. So that's what we'll be looking for, and that's the expectation. Super excited about this year to come. It's going to be a good year, guys. A lot of fun stuff at training camp. Again, you got some tickets to training camp, hit the DM, because I still don't have all the days, and I would love to get there for each and every day. But shout out to all you guys again. We hit 70K on the channel. Super awesome accomplishment. I appreciate all you guys for rocking with me. Shout out all the SDS, man. The Sourdough Squad, helping me, really, obviously, I don't get to 70K without any of you guys. So shout out to everyone who continues to support the channel, watching the live right now. I appreciate you guys, man. Super excited to head into another year, and everything that we go through. Brad doesn't get free minutes. No, I don't get any special treatment. I got to pay just like all my gang in the chat. I'm probably going to pay out my nose on the secondary market, but hey, it is what it is. No special treatment here. What we do is we grind. We get it out the mud. That's how it works. Anything that we've ever got here, we've earned. There's literally really, outside, I got to shout out a couple guys, of course, working with Jordan Elliott, Jason Aponte, a bunch of other guys that have been on the channel. They, of course, have all been a big part of what I do and have absolutely helped me out throughout this process. But really, nothing has been handed to us here. We're out the mud. Shout out to all the homies, though. Shout out to the SDS. Appreciate you guys as always. Your support is greatly appreciated. Yeah, training camp tickets for 200. Yeah, I'm super excited. Super excited to pay that. So any super chats that you guys send my way will be contributing to the Get Brad to Training Camp Fund. So that's greatly appreciated because clearly I'm going to need as much help as I can get to get my hands on these training camp tickets. But again, shout out to all you guys, man. Really appreciate you. Hey, we'll see. We'll see. Can we get 30K? Can we get 30K in a couple months? I do know if the 49ers go to the Super Bowl, I think we'll have a shot. If the 49ers go to the Super Bowl, we'll have a shot. But hey, we'll see. Shout out to all you guys, man. Y'all the best. Smash that like button on the video if you haven't already. Appreciate you guys. I'm out of here for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to